Hey guys, it's Mrs. Kneifel. I'm here to go over Walk to Moons, chapter 23 through 31. This starts on page 14 in your packet. So remember, Mrs. Kneifel does it with you, so don't think you're the only one. So there are, the first part, it talks about how words have different meanings. And we know that. We know that one word can mean two different things. So they give you 5 words: cast, starch, date, lug, and wave. And they give you 2 definitions. Below, you had to read the sentence and decide if it was definition A or definition B. So, number 1, the child was taken to the hospital where her broken leg was set in a plaster cast. You should have B on the line. B is a stiff molded form. Like you guys all know what a cast is when you break your arm or your leg. Number 2, on my diet, I cannot eat potatoes because they contain starch. On your line, you should have A. A is a carbohydrate contained in plants. So the correct answer for number 2 was A. Number 3, I will check my calendar to see if I can make a date with you next Tuesday. The correct answer is B, social engagement. We're not talking about day like Monday. We're talking about being able to join in with something. So number 3 is B. Number 4, because the suitcase was so heavy, I needed help to lug it home. The correct answer is B, to pull or carry. And number 5, the usher will look at your tickets and then wave you to your seat. The answer is A, gesture or symbol, like a wave, not a wave in water. So, once again, A was B, 2, oh wait, I lied. 1 was B, 2 was A, 3 was B, 4 was B, and 5 was A. The next part of chapters 23 through 31 is literacy devices, and it talks about a cliffhanger. So, a cliffhanger is a literacy device or a device in literature, and it's also in films and stuff. And it's when they leave you at like the end of something and you don't know the answer, so it makes you want to continue on. So, what is the cliffhanger at the end of 31? So, the cliffhanger at the end of 31, if you find out, we found out there was that picture on Sergeant Bickle's desk, and the picture was of the lunatic. So we're now assuming the lunatic is Sergeant Bickle's son. And that's where they leave you, and we're like, oh snap, what the heck? Super good cliffhanger. Number 4 is the refrain. And remember, refrain is a repeated phrase sometimes, normally in poems, but it can also be in novels. And how does it change as Sal and her grandparents get to the Badlands? So if you remember at the beginning of the story, it was hurry, hurry, rush, rush. Then it was slow down, slow down. But now it's back to hurry, hurry, rush, rush. And I just think that's because they're getting closer to Idaho, and I think Sal's just getting more and more worried they're not going to make it there on by her mom's birthday. So instead of slow down, get this time with your grandparents, it's back to hurry, rush. You need to get there before your mom's birthday. What do you predict will happen? This is an opinion question, totally whatever you think. I personally I feel like there's so many obstacles they're going through. Like maybe they won't get there by her mom's birthday, especially because Graham seems like a little bit ill lately, like not in doing her best. So there's that. That's what I think. That's an opinion question. Feel free to write whatever you want. And continuing on to that, what connection might the photo have with Mrs. Partridge's comment about Phoebe's brother? So maybe this is once again Mrs. Kneifel's thought. Maybe Sergeant Bickle and Phoebe's mom had a son together. So maybe the lunatic is Phoebe's brother, and maybe that's who Mrs. Partridge met. And when Phoebe said, "I don't have a brother," maybe it really was her brother. Who knows? I cannot wait to find out. Then on the back is page 15. You just had one question on the back of that page, and it was more about imagery. How does the bird imagery in the fourth mysterious message relate to Phoebe? So it was about the birds. Like you can't stop the birds from like flying over your head, but you can stop them from nesting in your hair or something like that. And I just think the imagery is so good. Like you can imagine a flock of birds acting crazy flying above your head, but then not just flying above your head and bothering you, but resting in your hair. And then it's constantly messing with you and constantly driving you crazy. And I feel like Phoebe is in a constant state of worry right now, and she can't get these birds out of her head even if she wanted to. So that's how Mrs. Kneifel feels about those. If you have any questions on 14 or 15, make sure you drop it below. Moving on to page 16, chapter 23 through 31, review questions. There was 5 questions. They're pretty hefty questions, though. My answers are over here, so I'm going to be looking this way. Well, I have my question over here. I have my answer over here. So sorry if I'm going back and forth. But number 1 is, how does Sal react when she sees a woman who is expecting a baby, which means a pregnant woman, and why does she respond this way? So I wrote, Sal feels frightened when she sees a pregnant woman because she reminds Sal of how her own mother's second pregnancy ended. After carrying Sal home, after she fell out of the tree in the woods, Sal's mother delivered the baby prematurely and the baby died. So she saw this event as important in her mother's decision to leave and buy banks. So she's just afraid that, like, Sal thinks she harmed her mother when she was pregnant, so Sal's like afraid she's going to harm other pregnant people, even though it was a complete accident-free thing that happened. Number 4, what is the 4th message left on the Winterbottom's porch? The 4th message is, you can't keep the birds of sadness from flying over your head, but you can keep them from nesting in your hair. Phoebe's family is dealing with feelings of sadness because of Mrs. Winterbottom's disappearance. At this point, it seems like there's just sadness that's overwhelming them. And Sal thinks that the feeling of hope, as in Pandora's box, helps keep sad feelings from overwhelming them. But, so yeah, we don't want all this sadness floating around, but it just is, and no one can really help it. Number 3, describe dinner at the Finney's house. Would you agree with Sal that it is an experience? So half of this is an opinion question. So dinner at the Finney's house is chaotic, and Phoebe is very critical of the food. She refuses to eat. I feel like it sounds like definitely an experience. It sounds like kind of like a fun time. I remember when I was growing up and my brothers, I only had 2 brothers, but my brothers would have friends over and we'd be eating dinner and everything was crazy. And sometimes I feel like that crazy is a good crazy, but Phoebe's obviously not used to it. But I would agree. It sounds like an experience. Number 4, why does Sal think that Phoebe wants to believe that her mother was kidnapped? What insight does this theory give Sal about the departure of her own mother? This is a deep question, in my opinion. So, Sal's theory is that Phoebe cannot deal with the thought of her mother wanting to leave on her own free will, and she must have been kidnapped. Because of Phoebe's reaction, Sal realized that she had nothing to do with her mother's disappearance. Or just sorry. Sal's mother didn't disappear. She left. Her departure. So Sal realized that she had nothing to do with the fact that her mom left. And once she realizes this, Sal can kind of stop blaming herself, which is a big thing because Sal's been blaming herself for so long. And number 5, what happens when Mr. Berkway reads the summer journal entries aloud? How do Mr. Berkway's responses to the entries differ from the students' responses? I was like, oh snap, when he started reading these aloud. So all of the students became upset and embarrassed when Mr. Berkway read the journal entries. Mr. Berkway thinks the entries represent good thinking and writing skills. The students think that it's just terrible. It's revealing too much information. They're shocked. They're upset. Totally not on the same page as Mr. Berkway. So those are the review questions 1 through 5 for chapters 23 through 31. And then there were 3 writing activities. And remember, the writing activities are pretty much your own opinion. So number 6. What do you think Grams means when she says, sometimes you know in your heart you love someone, but you have to go away before your head can figure it out? Sometimes I feel like our heart and our head don't really work well together. And you may know in your heart, like, something needs to be this way, or this is the way it needs to be. I love this, or whatever. But our brain's not really connected. So sometimes you have to get out of the situation to get your head and your heart on the same page. And I think that's what Grams meant with that quote. Number 7. Do you agree with Phoebe's decision to break into Mrs. Cadaver's house? Put yourself in Sal's place. Would you have done or said to Phoebe, proposed this plan to you? I definitely do not agree with Phoebe's decision to break into Mrs. Cadaver's house. First off, that's super illegal and it's very dangerous. She doesn't know what she could have been walking into. In fact, she walked in on a person. What if that person wouldn't have been Mrs. Partridge and would have been dangerous? So I definitely do not agree with that at all. I do not think they should have done that. I feel like Sal maybe could have tried to talk her out of it, but I do understand that Sal was just trying to be a good friend and didn't want her to go in by herself, because as dangerous as it was, it probably would have been even more dangerous for Phoebe to be by herself. So at least Sal was there for her friend, but I do not recommend breaking into people's houses. Don't do it. And lastly, the last thing for chapters 23 through 31, number 8, writing response. This is your 8th writing response. There's a total of 12, so you're getting there. Why do you think Sal's grandparents are taking the same route their daughter took to Lewiston, Idaho? What effects does traveling this route seem to have on Sal? I think, since we don't know exactly what happened to Sal's mother, whether she's just staying in Idaho, whether she died, whether whatever happened, I think Sal's grandparents, which are Sal's mother's parents, just want to be, I feel like by traveling her route, they feel like closer to her. So they're doing everything she did, I feel like, to be closer to her. And I think the effects have on Sal is she's definitely realizing things along the way, which is super good, but I feel like it's also hard on her. She sees what her mother left her for. I don't know. I think it has good effects on Sal, bad effects on Sal, but I really think the grandparents are just taking the route that way they can see what their daughter saw and maybe feel what their daughter was feeling in the moments when she was gone. So that is all I have for chapters 23 through 31. That was pages 14, 15, and 16. You should be seeing this Friday evening. I'm posting it early instead of on Tuesday because it's spring break. Happy e-learning as always. If you have any questions, drop them below and I will answer them. Happy e-learning, guys.